In this video we're looking at defending the post. Crucial thing to remember with defending the post is a line between the ball and the basket. You can see there's a red line there is the line between the ball and the basket. In the first couple of frames we had a red line from where she's standing now, which was again the line between the ball and the basket. Post defence should be about trying to get to own that line, keeping the offensive player off that line. Because when they're on that line, that's when they're hardest to play from the side and keep the ball away from them. The post is an area where you really want to stop passes going because it creates this quadruple penetration and gets the ball close to the basket. So the more you can side front, as I'm demonstrating here, with a hand in the passing line, a lead foot higher than the offensive player's lead foot, so that the offensive player can't step across to get in front, the better the positioning. And again, you're trying to own that line between the ball and the basket. So if you can keep him off that line by using an arm bar and pushing him lower, the lower he goes, the easier it's going to be for her to stop him from receiving the ball. So she has her back facing that line between the ball and the basket. If he moves up the lane, well, obviously as she crosses that line between the ball and the basket, she needs to adjust her position, because if she stays on the side and he is now closer to that line between the ball and the basket, it's pretty difficult to stop him from catching it and making a move towards the basket. So here, if he's above that line, she would side front from the baseline side, and again using an arm bar to try and keep him off that line. Once he gets down onto that line, it becomes difficult to stop him receiving it. And once he does, if he does receive it, she's on the side, he's got a pretty straight move straight at the basket. If he gets on that line between the ball and the basket and she's unable to move him, sometimes it's a physical contest. You can see I would have the strength to be able to push him off that line and keep him away from that line between the ball and the basket. If he was stronger than me though, or if he's got someone smaller than him guarding him, it might be more difficult for her to stop him from owning that line. In that situation, you have a couple of choices. One is you can play in front of the offensive player and try and force the ball to be passed over the top, or you could also play behind the offensive player and allow that pass in. So what I'm demonstrating here would be if she was fronting the post defender, she can use a hand to feel where he is and her other hand to intimidate the pass. If you had all your good team defensive concepts of a pressure on the ball, good weak side help, that lob pass over her head becomes a pretty tough pass to make and can often be turned over or stolen by the defence. So playing in front of the post is a good option when it's a size mismatch. So again here you can see demonstrating if I've got him off that line, he pushes me down, now I want to step around and move to a full front position. I'll only hold that position while he's on the line. If he moves off that line, I can get back into a side fronting position. So I'm always staying between my player and the ball, never letting him get closer to the ball than me. What I'm talking about here is the importance of weak side defenders being in the right position, pressure on the ball. If all those things are covered, that pass over the top of a fronting defender is pretty tough. If it's a size advantage to the defence, you may be prepared to play behind and allow the pass in. So if Kai was guarding Talia, I think that is, might notice those two girls are twins, it's difficult to tell them apart. Then if she was to receive the ball there, she would still have a lot to deal with because of his height. So that might be a situation where you might say it's okay to play from behind, but nonetheless it's still a penetrating pass and something that can cause you issues for your team defence. What I'm demonstrating here is just the footwork for being able to move around the post player to maintain position. So if you had a offensive player down in the corner here, I was side fronting here. Again, we're just going to move some offensive players up to show. So if the ball's there, I'd be full fronting. If it went to the baseline, I could now side front. Again, because the line between the ball and the basket has moved now, back into a full front. That line has moved again, so I can side front due to where the ball is. If the ball was skipped, I could quickly move around behind him. Just moving the players around like this is actually a pretty good drill for practicing the footwork and the armbar technique of guarding the post player. If it's a weak side to strong side cut, again, as that player comes across to try and get on that line between the ball and the basket, using an armbar to try and move the offensive player to where you can get the advantage is good foundation for good defence. Again, you see get the armbar there, I keep him away from that line between the ball and the basket. As the ball's down there on the baseline now, if he comes across and the ball's on the wing, again I try and push him up the lane away from that line between the ball and the basket. If he was to try and cut behind me, I might reverse pivot, open to the ball, and again try and get back to owning that line and pushing him off that line. So there's some guides for how you can introduce some good post defence to your teams.